All right, welcome back, everybody. As you can see today, I have a lot of very powerful tools that we're going to test on the Ecoflow Delta Pro. Planers, welders, plasma cutters, some crazy stuff. Let's see if it'll run at all. So as I said, this is the Ecoflow Delta Pro. We just did a video on this showing it powering up the house. There's all the USB outputs, 20 amp, 120 volt outputs, and a nice travel trailer 30 amp output. But this unit is 3600 watts continuous, 7200 peak. You can see I bought an adapter here to where I can actually run the full 30 amps out of that travel trailer plug for today's test. But spoiler alert, I did not need that. The 20 amp outlets were amazing. So here's a port on the side where you can actually add a second Ecoflow Delta Pro for 240 volts output if you're doing more off-grid applications or wanting to run, say, a more powerful welder. You can also charge in that port with EV charging stations for super fast recharge of the unit. Up here is all your typical 12 volt plugs and a little port on the bottom if you want to add an external screen. Not typically needed when you're using it in the portable fashion. And it has wheels for portability. On the back side, here's where you charge. You can also add up to 2 additional batteries in this unit for a ton of extra battery storage. 1600 watts of solar input, and there is your plug-in for the wall outlet. Unbelievably fast recharge in like 2.7 hours on just the wall outlet alone, and you can combine recharging methods as well to speed that up even more. 3.6 kilowatt hour storage capacity, and there is a 400 watt foldable Ecoflow panel that we're going to test today as well. I've already been using it for quite a while and I'm impressed. So we're going to see if we can run all these tools solar, kind of off grid. There's the MC4 connectors it uses. Here's a transfer switch I just installed in the shop. I've actually run the shop off of this unit. And you can see we just did a test. The video is available on the channel. I powered up my house and ran it off of solar for the day with this unit, just using 400 watt panels. I was quite impressed. And you can see inside, here's part of powering that house up. Like I said, that video is available. I'll put it down in the description if you want to watch it. Other cool thing about this unit, it has an app to where you can watch all the input and output, your charging, your discharge. That's a function a lot of people probably would enjoy. Now here I am unzipping these 400 watt solar panels. You see they come in a nice carrying case. That carrying case you're going to see here in a second also acts as a stand. So the panels fold right out, easy to lift up. I think they weigh a little over 30 something pounds, so very portable. And here I am connecting the case, and you can see you can zip the sides up and actually change the angle of the solar panels themselves. So kind of a neat design all in one. Just quickly thrown up, I was pulling in right at 370 watts of input, and the other week I put these out and was getting like 402 to 400 watts of input. So we're going to run a test today. I'm running power tools all day long. This is a 15 amp table saw. I just fired it up on the unit. We're going to rip down a bunch of lumber and work all day long. I had absolutely no issues with it running this table saw and ripping down a very large piece of wood. This is definitely one of the more powerful tools that you'd probably ever run on a device like this, but I want to show how it can be used for tools, off-grid building, construction work. That's something that's just I'm kind of passionate about. You can see the unit's running at 830 watts output. Now I just run a board through the table saw. Look at that, we're climbing. We hit 2400 right at 2500 watts. That just shows the additional load that you put on these motors and these devices like this once you actually load them up with wood in these cutting devices. I was shocked to actually see it go to almost 2500 watts, but no trips, no issues from the unit. So the next test, a very common tool. You can see I'm pulling the cord. It's run all the way over to the Ecoflow, and a miter saw. This is also 15 amp, one of the more powerful 120 volt tools that you'll use. So I'm getting ready to cut. By the way, I'm building stair stringers for in the house. This was finishing up our stair build. And as you can see, it cut right through, no problems. Let's take a look at the wattage. So the 88 watts right there is because I'm running a DeWalt charger charging a battery. See, we just spiked up, and now we're holding right at 1500 watts for that shortcut. And showing again that I'm plugged into the unit. This is my planer, 1800 watt planer. You're going to see when I fire it up here in a second, it pulls, I think it's around 1200 watts sitting still like this, and once you run the wood through it, depending on how much you bury it into the wood, it can pull a heck of a lot more power. I planed for several hours and cut lumber all day long this day with that unit. No problems. So take a look, you can see we're at 1200 watts right there sitting still. I'm about to run a piece through it. You'll see it spike up some. Also take note that we're down to 79%. This is after probably a couple of hours of running all those tools, doing a lot of work. But the solar panel is bringing in 360 watts, and eventually it's going to catch up. So you can see we just went to over 1600 watts, 1700, 18. All right, I want to show y'all something. As you can see, the building shadow is about to be blocking my panels. It's getting late in the afternoon. Now I could move this all the way over here and continue to get some sunlight for another hour, but there's no need. I have been working and using this all day long, although I've been in the house the last couple of hours running DeWalt tools. Check this out. We're fully charged in 2 minutes, 99%. That is amazing, being that, well, I have been running power tools all day long. I ran these tools heavy earlier, 1800 watt planer, 15 amp table saw, 15 amp miter saw, and I've been coming in and out of the house for a while making cuts with this. I'm actually about to fire the planer back up, take a couple passes off. I'm going to rip down one more board and go back and work in the house again. And this over here with just a 400 watt panel has outrun me. All right, so this should be the ultimate test for this unit. There is nothing that I own or that most people own that's any more powerful than a plasma cutter and a welder. Can this machine actually run those two things? I'm kind of nervous about this, but this has actually been a popular request. All right, so let's start out with the plasma cutter. I don't think I've ever seen anybody test that with a portable power station. Now my plasma cutter runs on 110 volts or 220. It knows how to automatically sense over. All right, let me position the camera where you can see that there is nothing funny going on here. Power this up. Okay, so I'm just gonna start out with around 25 amps on the machine. Let's see if we trip it or not. And this is 1/4 inch thick steel. This is about as thick as I could imagine you would be able to cut on 110 volts. I've tested that before off of wall power. All right, so I'm bumping the machine up to around 30 amps. We're probably starting to reach the max that you can do on 110 and potentially trip the unit. I have no idea. Let's see. I'm cutting 1/4 inch steel, which is about as thick as you could ever expect a 110 machine to cut. I'm probably pushing the limits here. Oh, so close. We need a little more power, but the good news is that machine did not trip. Let's bump it on up and see. We are right at being cut through. Absolutely no issues whatsoever. Cut right through it. I just bumped it up 5 more amps. I'm at 35 amps. The machine maxes out at 50 amps on 240 volts. I cannot believe that unit did not trip. I just cut 1/4 inch steel with a plasma cutter on a portable power station. That's pretty wild. I tell you what else we're gonna do. I am really curious. That had to have been pulling a ton of wattage. I'm gonna stick the camera down there and fire this back up. Let's see what that actually pulled. All right, so I'm really curious to go back and look on the computer and see what that pulled. I bet it was a ton of power. All right, so next, I have a 240 volt stick welder. It's an inverter welder, and I have adapted it down to 110 volts. It also automatically senses voltage, and it will adjust the amperage down to where I can't go above a certain level. All right, so the machine is maxed out at 80 amps. That's all it'll allow it to go to on 110 volts. And I can get a ton of welding done at 80 amps. I can weld with all 3 30-second rods, and occasionally I can get big 1/8 rods to light off of that as well, but I prefer 90 to 100 amps for those. Tell you what, just for curiosity, let's go ahead and push it to the limits and see if we can burn a 1/8 welding rod. I certainly was able to. Now, in this particular instance, you definitely need to probably stick with 3 30-second welding rods for 110 volts. That's what I've always done. But nonetheless, it burned a rod, it struck an arc, it laid down weld, and it did not trip the unit out. That is insanely impressive. So you can plasma cut, weld, and run all the other power tools that you've seen me run. That's absolutely insane. Did y'all see that wattage? All right, so without making this video go too terribly long, I hope y'all appreciated all the testing here, because I've actually been doing this for over a couple of weeks now as I've been out working, out and about. I have not hit overload, trip, nothing. It's just worked as intended, and it has impressed the heck out of me. So did y'all just see that? Actually, the first time I was running both these saws at the same time, I seen over 3,000 watts of output. I don't know how the heck it didn't trip, because these are rated for 20 amps. The unit's designed for 3,600 output. That was highly impressive. The second time I cut with the camera up close, you seen I think we hit 2,900. Now that's on the surge. Luckily that goes away very quickly. I did that to show that if you were on a job site, like say if a contractor's interested in one of these, look at what you can do. You can run 2 major power tools at once, and I was prepared to plug in this adapter, which would have got me, well, 30 amps of output, and this has actually got 10 gauge cord in it, so I could get that. So if I happen to trip a 20 amp breaker, well, I can get the full 30 amps out of the machine by using this cord right here. But as you can see, I absolutely do not need it. So we can plasma cut with this thing, we can weld, and we can run all of the most powerful 120 volt tools that you can typically buy and use. I can't honestly think of anything that has more of a surge in startup, especially than plasma cutters and welders and all, which I still gotta go back and review some of this footage. So I hope y'all appreciated this video. I wanted to show the portable side of this. We just released a video showing this actually running all the 120 volt stuff in my house and running off of solar all day long. My future plans are to build some sort of off-grid solar system. This very well may be what I go with, being that you can combine these and go up to split phase 240 volts, and you can add all kinds of extra batteries to this, up to I believe it's 24 or 25 kilowatt hours of storage. This thing goes from your typical portable generator to a serious off-grid machine. I love the adaptability of this. By the way, I tested a ton of stuff off camera. Your AC window units, I mean, my goodness, you can run multiple on this. All your CPAPs, your medical equipment, none of that stuff is going to rival anywhere near the power consumption of these saws. So you can run pretty much any 110 volt appliance that you can think of, plus multiple, and I mean multiple appliances. So if there's some more stuff you'd like to see me test with this, drop a comment, let me know. And we have some very exciting off-grid capabilities coming up that we're going to be using this for. I don't know if the camera can see behind me, there is a huge stack of solar panels. We're doing our first solar array here on the property. We've got a very special build coming up for that. You're not going to want to miss that episode. Thank y'all for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.